So there was a time when I would go dancing 2, maybe 3 times a week. And at first, it was difficult for me to let go. But after a while, I learned that a strong lead and a good connection made me feel alive. And soon, it didn't matter what the music was. Two-step, swing, free-form jazz. I would just dance to anything, so long as I had a strong lead and a good connection. And during those times, those windows, there was this trust and emotion between the dancers that I began to crave. And I knew that it was important that I didn't date or go home with any of the dancers because I might lose those connections. And it really wasn't a problem because within the dance community, it was sort of an unspoken rule that you normally didn't date your dance partners. But sometimes there'd be someone there who wasn't a dancer, who wasn't a regular. And I know I'm not supposed to pick up boys in bars, but sometimes you just can't help yourself. And so there was this one particular night, and I was in a particularly bold mood and dancing in a spot that felt like a dear friend's oversized living room. And it was jazz, free form. And I noticed this well put together gentleman at the bar who seemed to be noticing me. So I went up to have a sip of water, and he said, "Where did you learn to move like that?" And I said, "I come here a lot, but I haven't ever seen you." And he says, "Well, I'm here for a job interview, and it went really well, and yada, 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 and probably going to move to Austin, but I don't really know anyone here." And so I introduced myself. Said, "Now you know someone. Do you want to dance?" And he said, I don't really dance. I'm more of a music maker than a dancer." And then he asked if I'd like to maybe show him around if I was done dancing. I said, "Well, I've got a couple more dances in me, but I love showing people my town." And he was a geographically unavailable man, which made him even more interesting. So I had a few more dances and went back, and he said, "Let's go somewhere else and hear some music." And he wanted to hear some Texas music. So we jumped in an Uber, and I took him over to the White Horse, which you always know there's going to be a good band there. And I tried to get him to dance. Definitely not a dancer. But as we walked towards the back porch, there's a semi-broken down piano, and he was drawn to it like a moth to flame. And my heart went pitter-patter, because I do love a man who knows how to play a piano. And it turns out not only could he play, but he was the kind of guy who could take requests. And we stood there, and a group of people surrounded us, and he sang, and he worked that crowd, and my heart went pitter-patter. This guy, he was a neat one. After he played for a bit, we went out on the back porch and visited, and we talked about figuring out life and the fears of big changes and those things in life that you don't get to talk about with everyone you meet. But there's a certain vulnerability an intimacy that you can feel with someone that you may never see again. And I felt that developing. And I was thinking about this as he said, "Would you like to go back to my apartment?" Because of course he did. And it broke me for a moment, and I hesitated, and so he upped the ante and said, "I'm on the 16th floor. You can see the city. It's beautiful from up there." And the thing he didn't know was I'd seen bigger cities from higher points. My hesitation had nothing to do with going back with him, but rather bursting this perfect moment we had created together, and this depth and this understanding coming from far different spaces. So I thought, well, I'll see. If he's willing to walk back to his apartment downtown, which is about half an hour, I'll go with him. So I said, "I'll go with you. If we walk, it's about 30 minutes. To which he said, "That sounds great. I love a long walk." He just kept getting better. So we walked through downtown, and we met cops on Clydesdales, and he told me how music turns into colors when he hears it, and I told him how the world appears in front of me as I write. And then we had to dodge bachelorettes who were puking in gutters, and we laughed about the fact that they'd made that choice the night before, the happiest day of their lives, and wonder how many hangovers would alter their memory of their happiest days. And he asked about the buildings that were being built and what was there before. And he was smart, and he was inquisitive, and he was funny, and he wasn't pretentious, but he was cultured. And he started telling me about how he loved riding his Triumph up the Highway 1, Pacific Crest Highway, and how he couldn't wait to drive it across the western deserts. And my imagination started going. And he squeezed my hand and said, "It would be nice to have someone ride with me." And I thought, whew, this is a meet cute if I've ever seen one. And we got back to his place and went up to the 16th floor, and I stood out on the patio, and it was a waist-high glass patio, and I leaned into it because I'm not afraid of heights, and I love these rare opportunities that you can stretch your arm out and feel like you're going to fly. And he stepped up behind me, and he stretched his arms along mine, and he kissed my neck in just the right way. And all I could think of was Jack and Rose on the Titanic. And I spun around so I wouldn't start laughing. And I kissed him, and he kissed me back, and he leaned me back a little bit over this glass partition. And while it was all so perfect, I suddenly got a little bit nauseous and a lot sober because I realized I didn't know what the pressure test was on that glass. And while I don't have a fear of heights, I have a fear of slamming to my death 16 floors below. So I pushed him away and moved into the living room, and he poured me another glass of wine, and I had a couple sips. But that sobriety part was happening fast. And I had a vague recollection of him mentioning a casual thing in California when I asked him if anyone would be moving here with him. And the words, "it's a casual thing," started to go into my head. And as he was kissing me and we were getting to know each other on a different level, my imagination sent me 2 years ahead to him being on a business meeting and me being the casual thing. And all of a sudden, this incredible, romantic, fun evening, full of deep connection and shared points in life, just became ick. It's a casual thing. It's a casual thing. And I felt like I was out of my body, and I thought about the fact that there's probably some girl in San Francisco who's pretty sure they're not a casual thing. And I extracted myself and started putting clothes on, and he said, what's going on? Where are you going? What happened? And I said, it does not matter, but I need to leave. And he said, no, what's wrong? Everything changed so fast. And so I told him, you mentioned a casual thing, a girl in California, and if you thought to mention it, it's probably not as casual as you think it is. And so I have to leave. And so we exchanged emails, because what harm could that do? And I began walking home, my heels in my hand, and a dead cell phone, and lots of time to think. And a couple weeks later, he was still under my skin a bit. And so I wrote a short story about driving on a motorcycle across the high desert and stopping for picnics and making love under the Texas sun. And I had a glass or two of wine, and I used that email that he gave me, and I sent it. And he said he really liked it. And then I deleted his phone number because I realized that my rule for dancers stood for a reason. Those were people that I trusted and could trust me and had a connection to. And this boy I met in the bar would never be one of those people. And I learned an important lesson, that it's okay to pick up boys in bars, but you just gotta know when to let them go. Thank you.